Greetings. In this series, we are responding and answering, those stupid in the U.S. and the West who are attacking Islam. We are still talking about a meeting between Gabriel and Jimmy Swaggart. Now, during this meeting, she said that, she had many Muslim neighbors, and they used to come, for Sunday barbecue. And then suddenly, the next week, they would come to kill and massacre Christians. And she spoke so many lies about that. And she said, as well, she left, Lebanon, and she said, this is what happened with Muslims when they went invading other countries in the world. They killed, they conquered, any country they conquered, they forced them to follow Islam or adopt the Islamic traditions. They went, okay, I'm sorry. Let's stay, with Lebanon. What the lies she said about Lebanon, and she said, as soon as they saw that they have strength and became majority, they formed the Lebanese army, Arabic army, Jaysh Lubnan al-Arabi, Arab Lebanese army, and they started killing and destroying the villages of the Christians. Now, why she lied? Why I'm saying she is a liar? Simply because this is how things happened. This is the sequence of events way back in the 70s. A Palestinian bus traveling through a Christian area, the Phalange, Kataib, of Jmayel family. They were stopped at a point with the Phalange, armed Phalange, and they shot all the Palestinians in the bus. This is Christian, Phalange are Christians. They killed the Palestinians who were so innocent, they didn't even have a gun, not one gun, a whole bus, not one gun. They were watching a game in one of the camps, Palestinian camps, and going back home. They shot all of them. The war started in Lebanon. What kind of war? The Christians wanted to destroy the Palestinians who are in Lebanon. Then the Sunni, Lebanese Sunni, and the Shia, they joined to support and help and protect the Palestinians against the Christians. The Christians were divided into many parties. Like in the north, Frangia, and his party. And there is someone called Jaja, Quwat, Lebanese Quwat. And there is Jumayl, with Kataib. And there is Numur, of Shimon. Someone called Shimon. He died. He used to be president one day. So this Shimon was Numur, Christians, military, militia, was in the south. And they were committing all kinds of crimes against the Muslims. And those Muslims in the south retaliated, defending themselves. But they did not commit massacres like she lies. On the contrary, the Christians were committing massacres against the Muslims in Lebanon. That's how it started. This was a war all over Lebanon, not only in her village or the small, stupid part of Lebanon that she was living in. And Christians started the war. And Christians wanted to dominate and kill the Palestinians. And this is how it started. And even Christians against Christians. This Jaja, against, the Frangia, he killed his father and his brother and so on. They used to kill even each other, the Christians. And none of the Muslims committed massacres like she lied and said. None of them committed. They were committing the massacres. She lied and said she would burn our churches using our Bibles, as toilet papers, nailing Christian boys on the crosses, putting honey on the private parts of the people, so that the bees will come and stung. They walk into the bomb shelters that we used to hide in and rape women, beheading the husbands, and made mothers cut her own throat. A mother in front of her son cut her own throat. She is so miserable. She is such a liar. Those things were happening from the Christians against the Muslims in the exact manner she described. She just flipped everything around. She is a compulsive liar. She lied about everything she said. She didn't utter one good word. Okay? She said that, about the Muslims, that Jimmy said, that they didn't know anything about, we didn't know anything in the US about the Muslims. And she said, I agree 100%. Since September 11, we started watching the shooting of the children by Muslims, bombing in Europe, and so on. All the atrocities, and people being beheaded, while those terrorists, they're shouting, Allahu Akbar. Well, what you're watching, dear ignorant Gabriel, is ISIS, and those ISIS are a minority. I explained this in many videos answering your kind. Not all Muslims, are doing those actions. Not all Muslims committing crimes against innocent, beheading innocent people, or people with hands bind behind their backs. She said that Shahada is seen on Saudi flag. Shahada of La ilaha illallah, there is no ilah deserving worship except Allah, or greater than Allah. There is no God greater than Allah, is on the Saudi flag, and on the ISIS flag. The same Shahada, the same sentence. Those who behead people have the same Shahada, and this is carried by all the Muslims as well. Under this Shahada, Christians were killed in Lebanon, as we spoke about those lies. Hindu were killed in India in millions. That's what she says. Armenians were killed by Muslims, especially the Turkish. Coptic in Egypt, Coptic Christians in Egypt were killed by Muslims under the Shahada of La ilaha illallah. Assyrians in Syria were killed under this. And thousands and thousands of Jews were expelled from the Arabian Peninsula under the Shahada of La ilaha illallah. Well, regarding that last part, I would like to answer her and say, well, it was your God who kicked the terrorist Israelis from Palestine 2,000 years back and spread them all over the world. If you go to Deuteronomy 28, chapter 28, start with verse 64, the threats and the warnings and the disgust your God had against the Israelis, and how he promised to put them all over the world, and he did for the last 2,000 years. So if you're crying over a few thousands Jews who were kicked from the Arabian Peninsula for trying to kill the Prophet of Islam, and always sided with the pagans, who idol worshippers from Mecca and Medina, against Islam and against the Prophet, so they deserve to be kicked out of the Arabian Peninsula for their stupid actions. So you're crying over a few thousand? Well, why don't you cry about the millions that your God kicked out of Palestine through the last 2,000 years? And then the US brought them back with the help of England. Anyway, so cry over those millions of Israelis instead. Now she lied, so much, about, the Hindu that have been killed by Muslims, millions. She said she lied. There were some fights, when Muslims were going, toward Pakistan, and the Hindu from Pakistan, well, what is called Pakistan today, were coming back to what is called India today. So on the way, those were, shouting at one another, and then a big fight happened, and few deaths, not millions, dear liar, few deaths, and the many injured. That's all. No millions killed by Muslims. No millions killed by Muslims. You are lying. Millions of Hindus. The Assyrians in Syria were not kicked by the Muslims. They were living in peace until ISIS and Al Qaeda came. The Assyrians, were kicked by ISIS. Those are not Muslim. They are pagans. They are against Islam. And the Turkish, what they have did to the Armenian, we have nothing to do with. It was Turkey, not the 2 billion Muslims. So why you blame Muslims in Egypt for what Turkey have done? Why you blame Muslims in Lebanon or Syria or Palestine? Why you blame Muslims in Morocco or Tunisia or Libya? Why you blame all the Muslims for what Turkey have done? Why you blame Islam? Who told you that Turkey is a Muslim country in general, or following the true teaching of Islam? You have to do some study about that. So they did, what they did to the Armenians. They did what they did to the Kurdish, and the Kurdish are Muslim. So they, it's not only the Christians, you need to mention the Muslims as well. What happened at the hands of the Turkish? Even today, what's happening to Syria because of Turkey? Oh, you don't know that, right? You're so ignorant. Anyway, and you have so many ignorant, stupid listening to you and believing every word. Now she asked, where are the Arab countries, the Muslim governments, why they do not, condemn all that? Well, simply because we do not have a true Muslim leader in any of the Muslim countries. So that's the answer to your ignorance. You consider all those rulers in the Muslim world are really Muslim, true Muslims? Think about that. But how do you can you understand? You can't differentiate between the good and bad. She said when the Pope said that, he read in an old book that Islam was spread by the sword. The Muslims went into the streets, many Christians killed. She exaggerated in the numbers. Churches were burned, only 1 or 2, maybe in Pakistan. Why none of such is done when the West is under attack like this? Talking about September 11 and the bombs in Europe. Okay, well, this is a huge topic, and I don't have enough space on this video to continue. Uploading the videos takes time. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.